From Wall Street to Accra. There's not a lot of people that can say that. But our guest today can. Mr. Dale Bryant is a financial expert with over 28 years of experience in the industry. He's been an associate at Lehman Brothers and Morgan Stanley. And for the last 28 years, he's been a principal of his own advisory group, Bryant Group Advisors. And he's now in Ghana, starting his own retirement community called Monarch Village. And he's got a YouTube channel called Off the Wheel. Mr. Dale Bryant, we're honored to have you today as a guest. Thank you for being here.
Good to be here. Good to be here.
So I know a little bit about your background, just briefly, but tell us how you came up, how you got into finance, why you got into finance. Tell us what made you in those early years.
So it's a little bit of a charmed life. And I'll go back a little. Initially, it's going to look like I'm going back too far, but it's all going to make sense. So I was born to a single mother household. We grew up really poor in New York City, dirt poor. And my mother graduated from high school, never went to college, worked on a plantation as a teenager.
Really?
And so I was a first generation college grad.
Wow.
So I didn't get a lot of guidance from mom. So in high school, guidance counselors were telling Black kids, go to the Army or get a job at the local supermarket.
Okay.
A college application that was supposed to go to my neighbor in back of my house came to my house accidentally. I filled it out. I got a full scholarship to a college in Connecticut. Graduated, got a little job doing accounting work on Wall Street. And my first day at my little job, someone was being fired. They sat me down, escorted him out. He was filling out an application to grad school. Just started it, didn't put one piece of ink on the paper. I filled it out, got a full scholarship to grad school. So my life has been charmed.
Wow.
Timing, opportunity, a little luck. And that's the early road to how I got to Wall Street.
That's very interesting. Yeah. Okay. That's an uncanny. So you said a plantation. Plantation where?
Well, my people are from Alabama. Black Americans who were slaves hundreds of years ago were pseudo-slaves after we had the Civil Rights Act in the 60s. So Black people were given freedom, but no resources and no plan. So they were kind of free. So they would work on land that they were given or rented, and it wasn't the best land. And so in theory, they were free, but in practical life, they were not. And so my mother picked cotton as a teenager.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you know how Lehman Brothers started?
Absolutely. As cotton traders.
Yeah.
And you know who told me that? Reverend Jesse Jackson at a Rainbow Push Coalition meeting when he came to Lehman Brothers to speak. So I was at Lehman Brothers when he educated me on how Lehman Brothers was founded.
I don't know if you want to tell people. And for our Ghanaian audience, to give it context, Lehman Brothers was the fourth biggest financial institution in the entire world.
Wow.
And I'll let Mr. Bryant talk about how Lehman Brothers actually started. It's an insane story.
Yeah, well, from what I know, they were, look, a lot of corporate giants, from investment banks to insurance companies, all started in slavery or slavery adjacent industries, from trading humans, from trading commodities that slave humans produced, to insuring slave property. So corporations and universities are all deeply steeped in slavery.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Lehman, the Lehman brothers were cotton traders in the South during the slavery era, and they made a lot of money trading and exchanging cotton.
Okay.
And then they established the first ever commodities trading house in the United States, in New York, called the New York Cotton Exchange.
Okay.
Right? Fast forward, Lehman is one of the biggest financial institutions in the world. They no longer exist. They collapsed during the crisis of '08. But I'll get into the next question. So having worked at Morgan Stanley and Lehman, and for some of those in Ghana who may not be familiar with Morgan Stanley, they have over $1.4 trillion in assets under management, market cap of over $153 billion, and more than 75,000 employees. So an absolute behemoth. And of course, Lehman is no longer around, but they were the fourth biggest in the world when they were. What was it like working at these firms? Not a lot of people get in through those doors. How competitive is it to get in? What's the work like? And what'd you learn from being there?
Well, it was a necessary evil. Be careful of what you wish for, because every young business graduate would kill to be in one of these top 5 investment banks.
Right.
But when you get there, it's a different story. I'm going to give you the good and the bad. Let's start with the bad. I was called nigger every week on average for my 3 years at Lehman Brothers.
Are you serious?
Every time.
Now, is this coworkers, superiors?
Everybody.
What year is this?
93 to 96, 97.
Every week.
On average.
On
sometimes
average.
3 times a week,
more
sometimes
than-
once every 2 weeks. But the point is, I was one of the few black people on the trading floor. It was heavily concentrated white men. The only non-white men who were around were like the math quants who were Indian or Asian. So they were tolerated because they were, rocket scientists when it comes to derivatives and things. But women and minorities had to fight like crazy to get in the door. So it was a cesspool of the by any means necessary capitalists that you can imagine, super competitive. But I learned a lot. I learned things that you would expect. Capital asset pricing model, how to handle clients, how to be a professional, how to move with sharks. But the biggest thing I learned was that black people in America, with all of our disadvantages and our headwinds, if we're given the chance to compete, we're the best and the brightest in the room. Because otherwise, we would have been fired long time ago. So the fact that I was at Lehman for 3 or 4 years, no one can tell me anything. You understand? So I learned that. So that gives you the confidence to go out and start your own firm.
Wow.
So was it as racist at Morgan Stanley? Or was it any less?
These investment banks mimic society.
Okay.
So someone once said, when a black billionaire and a white billionaire get together, they don't see race. Race is for poor people.
Wow.
Big money people are connected by opportunities in the future. Small-minded people are fighting over crumbs and what set are you from? What tribe are you from? What race are you from? So I started out at Dean Witter, which was absorbed by Morgan Stanley. So compared to Lehman was like the billionaires, and Morgan was like the regular folks. So with the regular folks, there's more racism. There's less racism as you go up the food chain to the big investment banks because capitalism supersedes race. Yeah.
Right. And for those that may not be familiar, what's the day-to-day job of an investment banker?
Well, I wasn't a banker. Investment banking is a division that assists companies looking to raise capital. I was in the division where we handled clientele around the world. So we handled hedge funds, mutual funds, high net individuals, super big bond traders. So we had a variety of ultra net worth, sophisticated clients, most of them outside of the States.
Okay. And then, and you were doing
trading,
okay.
Portfolio management. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. I mean, Mr. Bryant, I'm just listening to you and I'm totally like, first of all, I would even want to find out how old were you as at that time when you actually entered into the investment world?
Mid-20s.
Mid-20s.
Yeah.
And for you to be there and gather that much of that type of confidence, this question goes into the fact that what made you such a great investor? Because from how you were sounding, it looked like it's something that you naturally loved, or it's something that, you know, it built your personality up. Were you able to just integrate your personality in there, and what made you such a very, you know, a great investor like that?
Well, I would be careful to use the word great investor.
Okay.
We were enablers, so to
Okay.
speak. I'm going to give you the real deal behind the curtain at Wall Street. When we wake up every day, the number one agenda is to create the environment for transactions to happen. And we make money on transactions. If nothing's moving, we make no money. So we make money on bid-ask spread from buying and selling.
Okay.
And commissions on block trades.
Okay.
So you want things to be happening. You want to enable someone's opinion of a trend. You think XYZ is going to go 30%? I agree with you. Let's create an option play on that. You want to hedge. You believe that bonds are up for a pullback. Let's protect those bonds. Let's hedge those bonds. So we're enablers. So I wouldn't say anyone's a great investor. What I would say is you get to know your products intimately, which are tools in your arsenal, so that when there's an opportunity to create movement for a client, you can facilitate that smoothly and efficiently.
What would you say? I mean, for what you're actually saying, were you guys manipulative when it actually came to the media? Because as you said, you were enablers. All right.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying, yeah.
So basically, in today's world, it would be like maybe, you know, in the social media aspect and things that actually enable some of these things, the atmosphere to be really crazy whenever it comes to the whole trading and investing bit. If we're to bring you to this era right now, would you be, would investors be very, very manipulative in that sector to just enable things to just keep happening like that?
Put it this way. I would say it could be a distant relative of manipulation.
Wow.
A distant relative. So for example, and so to your point, it's an interesting analogy you bring up. To your point, you know, super smart people behind the scenes know how to adjust the algorithm to influence behavior in social media for profit. And that's how these companies make money. It can be argued that on Wall Street, when you have a whole team creating research reports across all industries to give you an idea when you might not have had an idea before, to confirm a belief that you might have been playing with, I could see how one could make the argument that some of our back end supportive things services and responsibilities could inspire and influence behavior that some might call manipulation.
Wow. So what does one need to actually really be a good investor?
Well, I'll tell you this. Once upon a time, when it was just humans versus humans, it was a zero-sum game. We have a stock here. You think the stock is going up. I think the stock is going down.
Okay.
One of us is going to win. One of us is going to lose.
Okay.
So in a room full of 100 humans, you could expect that a percentage of those humans would be smarter than the others,
Okay.
would be more savvy than the others.
Okay.
And so maybe 5-10% could outperform the other 90 of 100.
Okay.
That was before high frequency trading. That was before dark pools. That was before AI. So once you start introducing non-human players, the human is at a disadvantage. Wow. So whereas humans back in the day when Buffett was outperforming for a big span of time, Peter Lynch was outperforming, it's harder to do that now as a human. And so when you say, what does it take for someone now to be great? I think the first thing you have to do is realize your limitations as a human. Wow. And know that you're not going to be smarter and faster than an algorithm. Wow. There was a movie called The Butterfly Effect, based on something in real life, where some quant built their own underground fiber optic bandwidth to an actual exchange to be 1/1000th faster than the next order coming in. And they spent hundreds of millions to be 1/1000th faster than the next order. So you're never going to beat that as a human.
Wow.
So to answer the question, you have to accept your limitations, and then you can begin to admit where you can add value to your process.
Okay.
These are things that you can add value. I'll keep it simple. There's a laundry list. I'll keep it simple. More time is better than less time. So if you're younger and you have a lot of years ahead of you, better than if you're older trying to figure it out.
Okay.
Emotion check. You are your worst enemy. Humans will always buy at the top of the market and will always sell at the bottom of the market. That's what humans do. But you have to compensate for that. You have to adjust for that with things like dollar cost averaging, which is investing the same amount of money every month, no matter what. It negates your human emotion disadvantage. Another one is diversification. The number one rule to make money is to not lose money. So put it this way. You start out with 100. If you lose 20% of 100, you're down to what?
80.
To get back to 100, you have to increase by
20%.
Right. What if you go from 100 to 50? To get back to 100, you have to do what?
Just make back the 50.
100%.
You have to double your money.
You have to double your money.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, you have to minimize your losses. And how you minimize losses is diversification.
Okay.
Which is why you shouldn't be in individual stocks, because while some people can get lucky, most people won't. So you have to spread your assets across different industry, different products, different risk profiles. When this is getting beat up, this is saving you. So generally speaking, you're hoping that everything averages out for the positive. So diversification is a big thing. So those are just some things that can help you maximize your potential as a human, which is different than being a great investor, because no one's a great investor anymore. Because I can tell you like this, statistically speaking, if I put 1,000 people in a room and I give them a quarter, and I say flip. Out of 1,000 people, 10 could flip heads 20 times in a row.
Mm.
Does that make them the best head flipper?
Okay.
So they can't replicate it again when they want to. Okay. So it's the same thing with the great investor. In retrospect, anyone could be a great investor. Mm-hmm. But all the people that we know that had long stretches of positive returns and outperformance all admit they could never do it again.
Mm. Wow.
And you can't determine who those people are before the stretch begins. So, but that doesn't mean you can't do well in the market. You can. But let's not pretend that you have an advantage over someone else.
No matter how much you've studied, no matter how much due diligence, quantitative knowledge.
It helps.
It gives, okay.
But to
it's
say
not
that
enough.
you got the secret sauce compared to all of these other super smart people with their new technology.
So even for that person, you would still recommend index funds, ETFs.
Long-term, low-cost index funds, diversify, dollar cost average, give yourself as much time, tax advantage accounts. Those are the things that make a difference. Everything else is salesmanship.
It's Jordan Belfort stuff.
Unfortunately.
I see. So now you're the principal of your own firm, which is actually Bryant Group Advisors. You've been at it for the past 28 years. I mean, tell us, how is it like? I mean, tell us how it even started, what instigated it, and how is it like being on your own?
Well, when I was at Lehman was my last gig on Wall Street. And at that time, outside of special occasions, if you wanted to be a client at Lehman Brothers, you needed to have $5 million liquid. Not a house worth $4 million and you got a million in other things. $5 million liquid investable. Wow. So it was for a special kind of clientele, none of which were my friends or family. And so I started my firm to help people that needed help. Okay. And these were Black people who didn't have connections to these kinds of Lehman strategies or resources. And so that was the reason why I started the firm, to give the same kind of high quality investment attention to people, to everyday working people, predominantly Black people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I see. I mean, it's actually very, very interesting, the way you actually said it, because you were inspired to help others, especially your Black community. That I would say is really an amazing thing to even have that thought. I think it's totally amazing. Totally amazing.
Yeah, and it wasn't without much drama and uncertainty because, my first 2 or 3 years, I made $0. Wow. Lost many a girlfriend and had a couple of, stretches of no electricity.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Now, some might say it was false or pseudo drama because in the end I could have always gone back and gotten a job somewhere. But because I was never going to get a job ever again, to me it was real. But yeah, when you're earning no money in New York City for years, it's not easy. So there was a very tough stretch for me.
But why didn't you decide to go back after you left Lehman? Why didn't you decide to go back to the corporate world
when you were struggling financially?
Exactly.
Well, because this is the thing. In my life, like I said, I've led a charmed life. Opportunities seem to find me. I've never made a decision based on money in my life. And so going back to work would have been because I need the money, which is a legitimate concern.
Okay.
But for me, what was on the other side was more important than money.
Wow.
For me.
Wow.
So it was never even a thought.
Wow.
Wow. So the first few years, $0, you're struggling financially, but you're sticking with it. What was it that sort of got you over the hump into, having a bit more success? What was the difference?
Well, I don't tell this story often.
Okay.
But there was a time where it was very tough. And I remember writing a letter to the regulatory agencies that oversee me. Because if you close up shop, you have to let the FCC or the New York State governing bodies know you're closing up. And I had started the letter. And then we had a little turmoil in the market. And I kind of was letting some of the clients know, hey, I might be closing down. And the way they were so touched and so bothered by this, like losing me as an advisor, it touched me to the point where it gave me extra inspiration to, climb that hill and keep going.
So, Mr. Bryant, so you're running your advisory firm. Things were tough at first. Things start to go well. Something made you leave the United States and decide to take the adventure to Africa, to Ghana specifically, where we are right now. What was the moment like when you decided, or was there sort of a process to deciding? Was it more so your decision? Was it more so your wife? Was there some influence around media advertising of Ghana? What was the climate like in the United States at the time? Just generally, what got you to leave New York, Wall Street, well, not necessarily Wall Street anymore, but the financial world of the United States, to come and make a trip to a developing country like Ghana?
I got to pay attention here, man, because I want to know.
Well, I wish it was more exciting and calculating for that big lead up, but it was simply my wife.
Okay.
She was a practicing pharmacist at a major hospital institution. So she was on the verge of being burned out.
Oh.
And we had discussed about how unsustainable it was for her to work at that pace until American retirement age,
Right.
which was another 17 years, say. Just wasn't going to be able to do it. So we had always discussed looking into other places to live. So on the back burner. And we just said each year we'll get more serious and serious about discussing it. Then 2020 happened. And so none of these things I'm about to talk about may have been enough individually to make someone move, but collectively it accelerated the process. So number one, she's a healthcare worker. Her hospital was ground zero for COVID.
In New York at this
In New
time?
York City, right.
Okay.
So she was seeing the body bags stacked in the basement.
Wow.
She was an essential worker. She had to go out. She had to go to work every day, no matter what. So that was very taxing on her. Then, because we were all home, normal American news that might not have gotten a lot of traction and attention before, Black people getting killed, because we were all home, hostage to the TV, the the trio of high-profile murders of George Floyd,
Yeah.
Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor. Breonna Taylor affecting my wife the most. The girlfriend of a suspected drug dealer who turned out to be the wrong drug dealer that night. The girlfriend was shot dead in her bed by white policemen, overly excited, jittery policemen who killed an innocent person. So that was early 2020. And that was pushing her closer to doing something as drastic as, parachuting out of America. And then Trump was elected. And all of his, crazy zombie followers were becoming activated. And ideas and opinions about Black people that they would have to deal with silently. They were becoming bold and expressing this newfound presidential support around racism. So these three things just was enough for her. And she said, we got to get out of here. I said, okay. That's how I got here.
Wow. And then why Ghana?
Well, I will push back. I would say,
why not?
No.
Okay.
Where else besides Ghana was a reasonable choice?
Well,
because how many countries do we have in Africa?
Yeah, about
54. Yeah.
20 of them don't believe that they're Black.
Okay.
South Africa was off the table. And then when you adjust for coups and military fighting with government, you're only left with 10 or so countries.
There's a top 10, yeah.
That you could reasonably consider to make a move. Most of them in West Africa, a handful other places, but it's really 10, maybe 15. So when you look at that smaller population of realistic choices, and then you take out French speaking.
Yeah.
Now you're left with 6 or something. And so, Ghana had the campaign, and it's relatively politically stable. And so
Nigeria was not even on. Nigeria wasn't. Because as at that time, Ghana was very hyped up. Everybody was really talking about Ghana.
Yeah.
Was it also part of the reason that just?
Well, look, there's a thing too. I will ask you guys. For every video about Ghana by some YouTuber, how many videos do you see about Nigeria?
Okay, as at that time,
it's a very good point.
Fractional.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I think, at least in my perception, though Nigeria has a bigger market and is in some ways more advanced than Ghana, I would say that it's not as an inviting of a country. I think culturally, some of the security concerns that people have there, I think it's a little more in your face. The way I look at it is, there's corruption in Ghana, there's corruption in Nigeria, but the corruption in Nigeria is right in your face. It's direct. There's no games. Ghanaians are gentlemen corrupt.
Gentlemen crooks, you said?
Gentlemen. Gentlemanly corrupt.
We're gentlemanly about it.
Gentlemanly about it. They'll use a lot of euphemisms. A tip, a dash, a help, a support, a consideration.
Very true.
There's a lot of nice language. They'll, hint it versus I think in Nigeria it's a little bit more aggressive. So between those two countries, but I'd say the top country in Ghana, I would say English speaking wise, is probably Botswana in my opinion, which I think they're very quiet. I think they don't advertise at all. I think you don't see a fraction of the videos advertising Ghana as you see with Botswana. But if you go there, it's I would say if I was going to pick a country in Africa to live in, I would probably put it as number one. But I think Ghana is exciting in a way. Like, I think there's a lot to do here. There's a lot to do here. I think it's exciting. I think there's energy around it too.
It was really, really crazy as at that time, because as at that time, almost every single YouTube video you would see, we are in Ghana.
Shout out to Wode Maya, man. Wode Maya.
We're in Ghana.
They should make him the tourism deputy minister. Honestly, because it was more for tourism here.
It was. But again, Mr. Bryant, there were other. I mean, Africa. Why Africa as a whole could have gone to probably Asia.
They didn't want to go to Asia.
No. So look,
Barbados.
Mm-hmm. In America, we grow up learning social studies, where eventually you discover that the books that you're learning from have zero interest in teaching you your true history. So Black history in the American books are 4 pages. So there were slaves. Lincoln freed them. Then there was a Civil Rights Act, and now they're all happy. That's our history in white books.
Pretty much.
So as an adult, when you start to read more, research more, and when the facts just find you, it's just a common sense pathway to try to reconnect to where you're from.
Okay.
And then it's almost a spiritual experience when you come and you see someone with the same head shape as you.
I see a lot of doppelgangers of people I knew back in the U.S. here in Ghana. I see a lot of cousins.
My wife, Dacia, is eating a food, and she says, "Oh my God, we have this in Guyana. It's the same food."
Right. Mr. Samuels was saying the same thing
and you start
Barbados.
putting these together, and then you start understanding the slave trade, and so why would I want to go live anywhere else?
Interesting. So if you were to analyze Ghana as an investor, what would be your analysis? Is it undervalued, overvalued? Is it a misunderstood asset? How would you analyze it?
Well, it's definitely not overvalued. Look, I look at Ghana like this. You got someone, you guys don't really have this in Ghana, but it's a big thing in America, yard sales.
Okay.
You got a lot of stuff. You've been hoarding for life. Either you want to just get rid of it, or you need a little money, or both. You have a yard sale. You put all your stuff out on the table. Everything out on the table, you're trying to sell for pennies, for little, for pesos. You just want to move the stuff, right? It's almost garbage to you. But then someone comes to the yard sale and they see something. They go, "Oh, that looks like a vintage. Oh, that looks like a." So to the buyer, the buyer sees value, and possibly a home run artifact. Same item. The seller sees garbage. Just wants $1.
Right.
Is it due to the survival?
I see Ghana like that. Like Americans see Ghana as an undervalued gem to be polished and handled properly. And Ghanaians, and I don't fault the Ghanaians for this because there's a lot of reasons we get into, but Ghanaians are trying to jump off of this ship and come to America or or the UK, other places. But all of these other places don't want them.
Right.
And all of these other places are stealing from here, resources from here, to give you the fancy things to the place you want to go to. And if you just began to understand the value here, you would see what we see, which is why we're running like crazy here, because we see the value.
This is crazy.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So now you're here. Currently, you're working on an interesting project. I was talking to a couple people about it last week, actually. A retirement community called Monarch Village. So just talk to us a bit about that. What's the inspiration for it? What's the idea? And where are you in terms of the cycle now?
So Monarch Village was an idea that came to me just reading the room, reading the landscape, seeing where the opportunities are. And so, sometimes you can have blind spots that are blind spots because of gaps in your education that can be caused by your ego. But in this case, we're talking about a gap, I believe, because of culture. So there are things in America that Ghanaians can't conceptualize just because they're Ghanaians. So, for example, like the home.
Mm-hmm.
Purchasing a home in America, you enjoy the home now, and you're trading future income for it. You borrow mortgages.
Right.
In Ghana, there's relatively no mortgage industry, so you can enjoy the home now. You have to sacrifice now,
exactly,
for the benefit
later.
of the future.
Right.
So there's less of a robust home aftermarket industry here.
Okay.
In America, people are buying and selling the same home all century long.
Okay.
In Ghana, people get a home, it's the family home.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
And people who ain't even family are in the home.
Very true.
And so because it's a family home, what is a very common thing here in America, you guys would never think of.
That's true.
In America,
That's
the
true.
second that a child gets a degree and a little money,
Move.
we're gone.
Yeah.
Far away from mom, dad, even further from grandparents. That's not the case here.
Yeah.
So in America, a very normal industry of old people living on their own, it's different here.
Yeah. Because you always have family around.
Always have family around.
Yeah.
And so that was the gap that turns into an opportunity here, because Black Americans are coming here and they're doing only what they know how to do because they've seen it on a YouTube video.
Yeah.
And so what you learn how to do is you buy land and you build a house.
Sure.
But out of 100 incoming Black expats, 15 of them don't want to do that.
Right.
15 want to do what me and my wife did. When I met my wife, she had a big house in South Jersey. I had a big brownstone in Brooklyn. When we got together, we both admitted to each other we never wanted to own another home again. We were and we are apartment people. There are people who are dying to have a home here in Ghana, here in America. This is their dream. This is a nightmare for me to own another home. So of those 15 out of 100 people coming here, there's no appropriate housing. So they have to settle for whatever there is in the Labonis and the cantonments, etc. But these are older people with health conditions that they need some professional guidance on. These are people with mobility issues. With all due respect, Ghana hasn't been so proactive in building for wheelchairs and strollers and rollers and canes, respectfully. So that's the opportunity. The 85 I'm not worried about. They will buy land and they will build. The 15 are my demographic that will rent. This is a rental development that will be happy to rent in a community that is familiar, in a development that has been built with their considerations in mind, fully supported around mobility, around shopping, around entertainment. And so it's a large R, small S, retirement senior. And it's a large R because I have clients who are getting pension checks at age 45. They're not seniors, but they can retire now if they want to. The seniors are getting their checks, but there's a whole demographic of other people who want to come to Ghana, who are getting checks. And a lot of times people don't want to exhaust all of their savings buying land and building. Sometimes people don't have the money to exhaust. They got cash flow coming in, but they don't have a chunk of assets. So this development, this retirement senior living community, was conceptualized to meet that opportunity gap of housing stock here and to address those potential rental residents who want another housing option to consider.
Okay. And where are you in the cycle now with the project?
So I've decided on a location because whatever the location was, I wanted it to be no further than 1 hour from a major shopping mall, Accra Mall, Achimota Mall, or West Hills Mall. So I had narrowed it down to 3 locations. Here in Central, a little past Kaswa is the number 1 location, almost 30 minutes before Winneba. And, they're expanding the highways going to Cape Coast. So what is currently a 1 hour drive will probably end up being a 35 to 40 minute drive from the West Hills Mall. So I've located the land. I'm in negotiations with the landowners. And I'm at the stage now of capital raising to finance the project, early stages.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where can people go to learn more about Monarch Village?
If you're interested in renting in this development, you can go to monarchvillage.live. If you are interested in investing in this flagship initial location, you can go to the SEC supported crowdfunding portal WeFunder and search Monarch Village in the WeFunder portal.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm truly enthused with. First of all, it's a great honor to really have you come into the country. I am talking for Ghanaians right now because I'm listening to you and I'm thoroughly just enthused with your life pattern. I'm enthused with what I am hearing, and I'm enthused with the mindset. And I remember in 2019, that was when the government decided to do the whole year of return thing. And I remember, as at that time, I was actually spearheading a food entity called Burgerfied. And I would have people come around, even with my friends, and I would tell them, look, something is about to happen. People are coming into this country. We need to be able to collaborate because they're coming in. Because I knew what was happening. That's at that time, everybody was just focused with the dollars coming into the system. We were excited. The whole town was, it was so beautiful as at that time. Everything was escalating up. We were just part of the whole, fiasco of Americans and diasporans coming in. But one of the things that I kept telling people is we should collaborate instead of taking advantage. The question here is, do you think Ghana was prepared for the year of return?
So, do you mean
the impact?
Do you mean the government or the people?
The people.
The people. No, I don't think so. I think that, even if you start from the government, they just didn't, and because of what the government didn't do, I think it trickled down to the people being ill prepared as well. But the government didn't create the right infrastructure to receive and harness this new expat enthusiasm coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you have is the people, the capital coming in recklessly. And the Ghanaian people are just not prepared for this. Because, and I'll say this respectfully, they're not, because the schools didn't train them properly, they're not prepared to engage, monetize, and cultivate these opportunities that are in front of them.
Wow.
Yeah. And, and that's both. Some are.
Mm-hmm.
And they get the lion's share of opportunities. And typically the ones that have traveled a little bit, been outside the country. But even the ones that haven't traveled out, there are some that have positioned themselves. As a matter of fact, I'll just take my protege, like a young lady who I met here, who is, she could be head of some company, but she just hasn't had the opportunity to showcase her skill set in a way that helps her reach her full potential. But I can recognize her bandwidth. And so I have plans on partnering with her in a variety of things. But that's because she's shown that she has the capacity for it. Reasoning, playing the long game. These are soft skills. This is not like regurgitating something you read in a book.
Right.
These are people skills. These are partnership skills. These are collaboration skills. But generally speaking, most people, and this is why some Americans and mostly all of the Chinese and a good chunk of the Lebanese and a good chunk of the Indians come in and exploit the Ghanaians.
It's such a way that, today I remember I was actually sharing this on my LinkedIn page, and I was really passionately talking about this because personally, I feel we haven't realized the advantage we have of the aspirants coming in, and we're not tapping into the intellectuality they are bringing in, but instead we are so blinded by the dollar language that we are not learning as much as we can. And from your experience that you've been in Ghana so far, do you think Ghanaians are learning from the aspirants, or they're just taking advantage?
I don't think the Ghanaians are learning like they should. And so this is a touchy subject that a lot of Americans talk about behind closed doors.
Okay.
But and I want to say this delicately with good intentions.
Oh, you have to say it as it is.
But let's just keep it 100 and keep it raw. Poverty will make good men do bad things, right? And so a lot of times Americans come in here and they say, well, how come Ghanaians don't do this? How come they did this to me? But if you live here long enough, you'll understand that sometimes if your belly ain't full, you're living for today.
Yeah.
And so how the Americans perceive that and experience it is we look at it as, oh, they're just trying to exploit me today. It's short-term thinking. They're not playing for the long game, but people are hungry today. People want to play the long game, but I'm hungry today. And so I say that to say, I have an answer. The answer is no, but there's a reason for the no. I always say to myself, the longer I live here, the more of my own stupid questions I answer.
Wow.
And so I've been able to empathize with why the no is there. You know, it's like, infrastructure, utilities. It's hard to be in a mindset to learn if you've had no water for 2 days at home,
true.
No lights for 2 days, and it's hot.
That's true.
You're a little hungry. Your trotro is trying to get that last fare and it sat there for 40 minutes. You were on time, but your bus is making you late. Now you show up at an opportunity for the American to beat you up. So if you don't see behind the curtain, you'll always have something bad about Ghana to say.
Wow.
But it's these things. And so it's not always the person. The government has a role to play.
Yeah.
Like these little things that some countries take for granted can make a big difference on how a Ghanaian shows up to learn in this moment. Yeah. So I would just say that I would encourage my American incoming colleagues and American viewers here to just have a little empathy on what's happening behind the scenes before you go all crazy on what Ghanaians should be doing.
I mean, this really, because I remember when I had the opportunity to meet up with Kojo, and I shared the idea with him, and I remember him actually consistently telling me to be patient, and I was like, bro, I am hungry, because it's such a way that you have a family to feed. People are dependent on you. The system is some ways. It's not easy, That's why I like how you raised the point and you empathized with us, even though some people are intentionally exploiting and taking advantage. But here's the case where personally, from my experience, there were consistent temptations because you are hungry and you need to, there are times where I would really just tell him I need help, and he would say, be patient. And here's the case where I had to now understand where he's coming from. And I didn't want to push him away, but typically I was really hungry, and there was a level of temptation to be very exploitive, especially coming into contact with the aspirants. But I remember the self-control as at that time to just compose, be calm. And eventually I would say that it did pay off. Let's go in depth. You've been here for some time. Naturally, and this goes for your people, mostly for the people who are coming into the country. What are the business sectors or the business environments that you feel you can easily thrive in Ghana? What are the business opportunities that we are not seeing, that most Americans who come in just eventually realize that is a gold mine? Because the part where you actually said that we being in Africa, in Ghana precisely, and we do not see, and that's the honest truth, we don't see, because sometimes I try to understand. I'm listening to Kojo, I'm listening to all of these just, and I'm just blown away by the level of creativity. And I'm like, okay, so this has been there all this while. How are these people turning it into something? What are the business opportunities that we are not taking advantage, especially in Ghana here?
That you guys are not taking advantage of?
Yeah.
Well, so as an outsider coming to Ghana, as an American, a Black American coming here, we typically get off the plane and we're like, okay, all the things that we were involved in America, let me find them here. But they're not here.
Okay.
Because Ghana is so young, there are laws fresh on the books that haven't even been tested in courts.
True.
And so a lot of industry, a lot of companies that you would have been interested in America, you have to just see what Ghana has to offer. Okay. And so when I look at Ghana, low-hanging fruit is dirt. Opportunities in dirt. Mining, agriculture, real estate.
Okay.
I'm not in mining, but I'm in agriculture. I have a yam farm. I don't know if you've known that. We got a yam farm. And I got some Airbnbs and working on this Monarch Village project. Yeah. But those are like hard assets. And they require labor, sweat. You have to be there. Or someone has to be there. But at some point, the soft assets is where there's going to be money to be made. And so as an American, I know how lazy some Americans can be and how much they value convenience. And I think Ghanaians haven't really tapped in to how much money they can make off Americans.
That's interesting.
So, for example, I'll just tell you some things that we would do in America. Easy peasy, no thought, that ain't here. Food ordering, grocery ordering. In America, we never went to the supermarket. Click, click, click. Someone puts it in a box, puts it outside my door. I pay a fee. Happily. How come that's not here in Ghana?
I think there's a few people that are trying to do it, but they are not targeted Americans, as you said.
I'd like to even know the few people who are doing it.
Glovo was. So
they're gone.
They're gone. And then there's one other company that's more towards Central Accra. I forgot the name of them.
But it's something as individuals we can easily do. I mean,
easily.
Like you're telling me right now, and I'm like,
Hubtel was there.
Yeah.
I was doing it with Hubtel. But Hubtel has kind of faltered a little bit. They're still up though. I mean, they kind of almost went all the way back down, but now they're coming back up.
This is free consultation here. This is a business.
This is a business opportunity.
It's a business opportunity, Mr. Bryant just said.
So then you have Americans who come here and don't build their homes, because when you build your home, you can stick whatever you want in it, but they rent. And unless you rent in the cantonments and the airports and the Labonis, you're not going to get
quite a quality. Yeah.
For example, washing machine. Right? Now, Ghanaians, you guys will wash anything and dry it out. Easy peasy. Americans don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
So someone could make a lot of money, because I've placed a lot of Americans in Ghana, not like, estates separated from the Ghanaians, but in Ghana, living with the people in the homes that don't have washing machine. But guess what? They don't want to wash. They're too old to wash. They got to figure it out. Someone who says, hey, I'll come pick up your stinky clothes once a week. I'll wash them. I'll fold them. I'll deliver them in a couple of days, and I'll charge you a fee. 80% of Americans who rent here would take that up.
Are you listening? Are you guys listening?
What do you think about laundromats?
The laundromats aren't doing it.
Yeah.
Is it because they're not tapping or targeted?
No, it's because it's like this. Humans are only honest as their options.
Okay.
Landlords in Ghana do what they do because they can get away with it.
Okay.
they charge 2 years up front because they can get away with it.
That's true.
The second that someone comes here, a developer, and starts charging monthly, they will have to follow.
Yeah.
But today, they don't have to. Same
what we're
thing
trying
with
to do.
laundromats.
Yeah.
Laundromat says the people will come bring their dirty clothes.
It's true.
Because that's what they've always been doing.
It's true.
No one's going. Why would I have to think about something extra when they just come and bring their clothes? So someone's going to come in and disrupt that.
Disrupt it. Yep.
And then the last quick thing I'll say, I get my car washed at the West Hills Mall here. Have you ever gotten your car washed there?
Today.
How long did it take you?
I'm not exactly sure because I was in the mall. What I do is I
How
go
long
in
were
the
you in the
mall.
mall for?
Maybe an hour.
It takes you an hour to wash your car here.
Are you going to say drive-through car washes?
I won't even go there yet. I will say some smart Ghanaian is going to get a pregia.
A pregia?
Pregia. What do you call? What else do you call a pregia? What do you call that little?
Abubuya.
A booba,
Yeah.
Okay. Someone's going to get one of those. Put a little water tank on the back of it, and come to your home.
Conveniently come around
and clean your car, wash your car in your driveway, charge you a fee and leave. Saves you an hour.
I'm actually typing this.
I don't want to be. Look, you were okay because you had stuff to do with the mall.
Yeah.
What happens when you just want a car wash? You know, sometimes I'll go to car washes and I'll pay them extra for me to not get out of the car and clean faster. They're like, what? What's wrong with you? I just want to. So I'm just saying the opportunities for convenience are there if you understand this new clientele coming in. And there are certain things that Ghanaians would never do, but the Americans would do. So so those are just some. But me and the Americans, we sit down and we talk about all these things. Man, I wish someone
would. I wish someone.
If I had a CD for every time someone said, "I wish someone."
So, many Ghanaians are surprised to see African Americans such as yourself remaining in Ghana despite some of the recent negative headlines and occurrences. What keeps you here, and what's the advantage of being here versus being in the United States?
Well, it's not a surprise to me, being here for almost 2 years, that Ghanaians would be surprised. Because the average Ghanaian doesn't fully understand the Black experience in America. And we'll just start at the beginning very quickly. America was founded by rich, white, slave-owning men who didn't include women and who thought Black people were animals and possessions.
Okay.
That's the birth of America.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there was a hundreds of years of that. And then there was the Civil Rights era, an act, which improved some things, but not enough. There was a civil war fought over the right to own Black people and keep them as slaves. Wow. Half the country said, "I'll fight to the death." And today, half the country would like to make America great again. It would like for Black people in America to go back to fill in the blank. That's America. And so when Ghanaians either can't believe that we're leaving the promised land to come here or want to run to America, they just don't know. And, in America, I'll be very honest, there's opportunity, there's money to be made, but it doesn't come without a cost. There's a cost to everything. And the cost for Black people typically is trauma and or bodily harm and sometimes death. And that's every day. So when was the last time you guys were pulled over by the police here in Ghana? For anything. Tinted window, stop, check at night. When was the last time?
It's been a while.
Okay.
Yeah, probably.
Did the police have a gun?
Nah.
No. Yeah.
I love that.
Do you have any fear for your life ever?
Ghana.
Never.
You know, in America, if you get pulled over at night, in the other 95% of America, let's say not New York City, not Chicago, not like rural America, black person pulled over at night, there's a 50-50 chance that this traffic stop could end in your death. Wow. Every policeman has a gun. They're all itchy trigger finger, nervous, think that you're an animal and you're dangerous. That can't happen here in Ghana. Wow. So that's the cost of America. So you can make your money there, but I don't think you can make a peaceful life there. And that's just police interaction. Then you have death by 1,000 cuts. Trying to survive in a white workplace as a black person.
Okay.
So you have the outright racism, like I told you before, being called nigger to my face. But then you have what we call the microaggressions, which one cut doesn't hurt. 10,000 cuts is unbearable. And that's everyday life.
Okay.
As you probably the only black person at your company. So when you come to Ghana, you know, I don't know, have you guys ever heard of the term Karens?
Have you?
Okay.
I have.
So it's an American
Slang.
pejorative.
Okay.
Typically describing a white woman, but not solely attributed to only white women. It can be a white man or someone else, but typically a white woman. And what it is someone who, for no good reason, wants to stop minding their business and start minding your business for no reason at all. Okay. So a Karen would behave like this. You would take your family to a trip. You stop off at a hotel. A Karen doesn't believe you should be using this pool. So they'll call the cops because you look suspicious.
Okay. I think
that's a Karen.
Yeah, I think I noticed that
and then a
on
Karen
TikTok
at
recently.
the workplace does workplace attack on you. So, you know, imagine having to get up every day and go to a hostile work environment. You need the money. You need the experience. You hate everyone that works there. Your word versus everyone's word is nothing. You expect it to work and be 4 times better than anyone. You're probably underpaid. This is work in America. So black Americans, we deal with this, which is why when we come to Ghana, we're like superheroes.
Oh yeah.
Right? So when I got off the plane at the airport in September of 21, when I first set foot in Africa, in Ghana, first time, and I looked around and I said, no Karens? I said to my wife, I can live here. So it's little things like that. So until you as a Ghanaian understand how crappy the workplace environment is, you won't understand why we're running from there to here. Like Ghanaians on their worst day, overcharging me, ripping me off, calling me a brony.
which is actually a compliment.
On their worst day doesn't compare to an average day in America. So for black people coming here, it's a no-brainer. Wow. Peaceful.
Wow. Wow.
No policemen trying to kill you. No white people who want to see you harmed.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy how, you know, how we've always seen America. We've always seen as the land of opportunity, you know, And I mean, for Ghanaians, it's like somehow we feel we can tolerate everything because naturally the economy is blasting up in our faces consistently. You know, so we feel we can survive and it's nothing. You know, funny enough, some Ghanaians actually feel like, I mean, hey, Black Americans, I mean, it's an exaggeration. You know, it's not like we cannot handle, because funny enough, even in our own country, we get to experience that from these Lebanese and from these Chinese people. For us, it's like the money
But it's not
different.
Have you, the story I tell to Ghanaians is the story of Amadou Diallo. Do you know the Amadou Diallo story? Okay, so this is, he was from West Africa. He was from a good family, prominent family in West Africa. He was living in New York. I want to say he was either in Bronx. Yep. He was in the Bronx. And, he was a student, you know, he was working part-time and he was a student doing the right thing. He is going to his apartment at night and he's getting his keys out to open the door. And police say, "Stop, show me your hands." He turns to face them. They light him up with bullets because they thought he had matched the description of someone they were looking for that had committed a violent crime. There was no questioning. There was no pause. I don't even know if they got a good full look at him, but America has some pitfalls. One thing I say is to Ghanaians, if you are looking to move to America, have a really good plan, really understand where you're going to live. And if you can go and be around people that can show you the ropes, show you where to go, where not to go, things like that, it can help alleviate situations. Because certain area, like I said, America is like 500 different countries. Depending on your zip code, which is like your county, that little area that you live in, it's a totally different experience. So if you have family that lives in a nicer area and you can stay there, it'll be a little bit better. So life has no perfect place. There's no perfect place on planet Earth because humans are imperfect. So we add imperfection anywhere we go. So sometimes you've got to weigh, like what he's saying, your peace and safety over money. But it's and this isn't to say like, hey, you're going to go to America and, you know, you get blasted. It's to say that is a risk factor that you should consider and not just go over there on a travel visa and just be in the hood. You could end up in certain situations that, look, even in terms, aside from police violence, there's not even a fraction as many guns in Ghana. America's got guns, and there's a lot more gangs. There's a lot more straight up mafias. Like, there's still mafias in New York. Like, I was shocked. I was in New York. I was like, he's like, yeah, from here to here is the Polish.
Okay.
Over there, the Italians. Like, mafias. I'm not saying like the neighborhood. I'm saying the Polish mafia controls this business, this business, and this business. If you go to that club at night, be careful. If don't talk to any Polish girls. Right? So there's certain things that you just don't deal with. It's a trade-off. It's a trade-off. We hope that we can help make Ghana prosperous so that we don't have to make that dicey role. Right?
Because I'm enthused by the level of peace. Like, every time that I have the opportunity to meet a diasporan, you can literally see in their eyes how excited they are by just being here. And I get shocked by it because it's such a way that, okay, what's so special? So for me personally, I ask questions, you know, try to dive into the mindset. And it's like, because they're just excited to be here, I think naturally it causes them to see the opportunities naturally, because, you know, psychologically, when you're in a good place, you get to see great opportunities. But when you always find yourself in a certain type of place, all you get to see is sometimes, you know, trash like that. But this is actually quite some good analysis here, Kojo.
So in terms of the other way around, Ghana inviting Americans, British, Africans, and other Africans in the diaspora to come into Ghana, what are some things that the Ghanaian people need to do and the Ghanaian government needs to do to help facilitate that?
That's a good one.
Well, this is timely to talk about, but it's also I'm going to have a very narrow. I'm going to start with a narrow answer because I'm in the mix of something. So we'll talk about the barriers to capital, which capital is what incoming diasporans use to start businesses which would hire Ghanaians, businesses which would pay taxes, et cetera, et cetera. So the barriers to capital are, so for example, I got a funny Instagram post the other day. White lady goes to registrars to start a business. Mm-hmm. She comes out looking frazzled.
I think I saw this one.
And she says, what does she say? She says,
they're asking for how much money?
No.
250.
She says, are there any Ghanaian men that I could marry?
Yes.
So I don't have to pay the big registrar's fee for my company. Yeah. It was funny but sad. And I'm going through this myself because, if you Ghanaians go to start a company, it's under 1,000 Ghana.
Yeah.
I'm starting a company.
It's ridiculous.
And it's 6,000 USD. Paperwork.
Just the registrar.
Just registrars.
Mm. You haven't even gotten into the even bigger, that minimum asset requirement.
Then you go there. So 500,000 to have 100% foreign-owned company operate. 200,000 if you get a 10% Ghanaian, which for many American companies is a non-starter because you can't raise money if you have a 10% Ghanaian partner, because guess what? They haven't determined if that 10% is dilutive or non-dilutive yet.
Okay.
So I can hire you, give you 10% to have a $200,000 dollar capital infused company. You got 10, I got 90. Elon Musk wants to give me $10 million for 70% of the company. What was 90 for me now gets reduced. Does your 10% get reduced? No. How do you know? Because you don't know. Yeah. There are no rules saying what the rules are. There's no document on if the 10%, how it moves when you're raising money.
Interesting.
So it's a non-starter.
But would it convert to having that 500K minimum? If the capital raised is over 500K,
there's no rules.
So essentially, you would need to do the 500K minimum in order to avoid that dilution.
You have to.
Or not. Yeah,
you have to.
Which is,
and then finally, just to tie this
crazy.
Up, you guys have a Ghanaian company. You can't start until you get whose stamp of approval? You can't come into business until what? You have to go get someone's approval.
Yeah,
what regulatory agency here?
That's the GIPC, right?
Oh, you're saying for foreigners?
How much is it for you to get the GIPC stamp?
How was that?
Wait, 1,500 Ghana. Yeah. How much is it for me? 25,000 Ghana.
Wow. Not to cut you, but we're looking at getting the head of the diasporan unit from GIPC on our program and asking some really, really hard questions.
I will probably come and throw eggs at this person. Throw eggs.
Listen, Marina, if you come on,
I will.
We do have security here.
Listen.
And Marina, don't worry.
Very dangerous.
Because the diasporans want to ask you so many questions, Marina.
We do have security, so don't worry.
I've been to GIPC and they're very helpful. They don't make the rules.
Right.
They enforce the rules. Yeah. So I'm not mad at them.
Sure.
I'm just mad because you don't even need extraordinary people. You have regular average people who will come here, start business, and hire 4 Ghanaians.
It's true.
Yeah.
Why make it harder to do that?
It's very strange. I struggle to understand it. I don't know if it's about, I don't even know if I should say this, but I guess I'll say it. I think that there is an element of wanting to keep a certain level of control over the means of production, which end up being the levers of power in a democratic system where you need campaign financing. I think it's similar to what occurred with GN Bank as it's looking. That if this foreign capital would start to come in, maybe it starts to change the status quo. That's my. Of course, I can't say that for sure. I haven't seen it or heard it said.
I can't even officially co-sign on this without fear of getting deported out of the country.
It's true.
So I have to sit here and say, I don't know.
Don't say anything.
I don't know.
Don't worry. I'll say it for you. Don't say anything. Okay. We don't want you to. Yeah.
No, but the thing here is from a Ghanaian perspective, and I hope the government is gonna. We need to understand the effect it's having on us, because people from the developed country are coming into better, individuals.
We had the year of return.
Exactly. That's why I even asked the question now.
So
and
why?
What?
You
say that to say what?
So you say, hey, come over.
Exactly.
Hold on, wait. You want to stay? Here's how hard I'm going to make it for you to get residency. Here's how hard I'm going to make it for you to start a business. Is that a genuine invitation?
I mean, it's like an ironical invitation.
It's almost a two-faced invitation.
Well, it's like when someone says, "Call me." They don't really mean for you to call them. It's a figure of speech.
I'll
call you back.
Yeah.
If it was because look. Here's the question. Us that time, we were all, and the thing is, funny enough, a lot of Ghanaians don't even know this. It was when, I had an encounter, or we had an encounter with certain diasporans that we came to understand this, and we're totally dumbfounded. So a lot of Ghanaians are unaware of this.
Yeah. And
they don't also understand why the diasporans are leaving, because the fact that it's going to take me this while to get this business, and the next minute, the economy is going to totally make it unattractive. Then it's best I just leave.
It doesn't make sense.
So it's such a way that we do not I don't know if the government understands how foul this is and is affecting, the people who really want to collaborate, and recognizing that it's almost impossible.
But this is the thing. I would even argue everyone can still win. If you reduce the capital requirement from 500,000 to, let's say,
just get rid of it altogether.
50,000.
That's true. It makes sense.
And then say, but you also have to pay 10,000 into the direct pockets of the current government.
Okay.
They would still benefit. And there would be more $10,000 contributions than the one 500,000 contribution.
Sure.
There would be 1,000 10,000 contributions. So they would make more money.
But Mr. Bryant, the funny thing about how Ghana works is, I don't know if it's an intentional thing where they know that they create certain things that it just makes it easy to have loopholes. So they really put it there, and they won't change it. But they know the loophole. They know. So it's like, for us, corruption is like an expansion of job opportunities. So that's the funny thing, where it's like you can't also touch. So I don't know if it's going to change, because these are job opportunities that are created. You know that, bro. People are willing to pay. I mean, immigration, they are willing to pay way lesser, and they will tell you point blank, "Oh, bring this," and it goes back. At the end of it all, I wouldn't be surprised if the government, they are behind that too.
Well,
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
They're the ones with the power to change it. So, that technically that means you're behind it. But it all comes back to principles. It's something that we try to stress here. And one question we try to ask all of our guests is, what are your principles? What are your top 3 principles that you apply in business and or life?
Give me an example. Give me a principle example.
Okay. Okay. So I would say that one of my principles would be integrity.
Oh, okay.
Right. So,
Especially to succeed.
See, that's a weird one, because are you saying that that's like a choice?
100%. Everything's a choice.
Mm-hmm.
See,
I could choose to be.
Like, that's not even a choice for me.
So then that means you're standing on the principle.
Yeah.
Or
So
it's
that's
so
why I asked for an
foundational.
example, because I wanted to answer the question, but maybe I'm just built weirdly like that. I've never taken a dime from anyone unless I've earned it. I've never left a business relationship where someone felt like they were on the short end of the stick. I've given up more than I should have just so that someone else can feel like they've won.
Mm-hmm.
Also, so I can sleep better at night. So it's weird, because integrity in business is just a given for me. But principles, I don't know. Give me another principle.
Okay. Another one of our guests, one of their principles was never starting a business without a plan. It's more of a business principle, more so than a character. Or
See, I disagree with that one. Actually,
Okay.
we can bring up business, and I'll talk about the principles.
That's fine.
So, let me speak to that. I feel like, as an entrepreneur, there's some preparation you can do, but then you run the risk of practicing for the game, but never getting into the game. And so a trait that an entrepreneur has to have is making very important decisions with imperfect information. And so I'm a believer in doing, figuring it out, iterating, pivoting, restarting, versus trying to come up with the best business plan to cover the SWOT analysis to figure everything. I'm more of a, let's get into the marketplace. Let's see what the customer says about your product. I mean, I worked on something once upon a time in my life where I probably overdeveloped the product. It was my wife's thing. And I wanted it to be perfect for her.
Oh,
If it was for me, I would have been a little more entrepreneurial, reckless. But so speaking to that principle, I'm kind of in a little disagreement.
That's fine
with it.
So then that means your principle would be it would be a reverse, or it would be your principle would be
But you take one day at a time.
Don't be afraid to take a shot. Kind of like you did with the application to the graduate school, right?
Right.
It wasn't, the application wasn't even for you.
Was it for me?
I mean, is it?
But maybe it was. Right? You know what I mean?
I mean,
that,
right?
right?
Is it due to the fact that, because the whole Wall Street character and being very, very spontaneous is all part of what has groomed you to be who you are?
I want to answer the question, but I want to ask you a question. You have two people. Someone who's been doing it for 5 years. They're not dead yet. They're not homeless. So they're doing something right, even if they're not doing everything right. They have a system. They have clients. They might have a name or a brand. They have expectations of a product maybe or a service. That's person number one. Person number two has never done anything yet. They got a plan. Haven't sweated. Haven't had anxiety,
Mm.
haven't worried, haven't had to fight off a competitor,
Mm.
haven't been ripped off, haven't had to negotiate. Everything is a plan. It's a beautiful plan. It's bound beautifully. The colors are vibrant, but it's a plan. Who would you take a chance on?
I'll take on the first person.
Me too. I would too. Because you can always, in my opinion, introduce policies, procedures, routines, best practices to someone who's doing something. This person with the plan, I don't know what they're capable of. I don't know what their resiliency is. I don't know what their commitment is. I don't know nothing. They haven't been battle tested. So I would, me personally, I would go with the loosey-goosey Ghanaian who's been doing it.
And from your experience, naturally, especially with some of the investments that you've done for certain type of companies, has it been like that? Where such companies eventually were able to turn them into very profitable entities.
Well, look, here I am in Ghana, and I'm having real life experience with your question.
Yeah.
My yam.
You're right. The yam farm.
So it's an OT region. Okay. The family is a family of farmers. I'm taking a chance on the younger farmer, the up and coming farmer. The initial discussion was X amount of CDs put up will seed a 10-acre yam farm, and the harvest should produce X% in profits.
Okay.
So mishap after mishap happened. Projections that were made were not hit. And so we missed the original planting season. So my yams, which were supposed to be 2 feet long, like you see those big yams at the junctions, my yams were like 8 inches. So I had stunted yams. Wow. And so I got to the point where I said to myself, oh man, this is such an anxiety ridden experience. I'm almost hoping the yam farm doesn't work out so I don't have to come back to OT region.
Wow.
I will have learned my lesson. I'll have a good YouTube video to talk about, and I'll go on with my life. But this farmer, through the challenges, showed so much concern for my return on investment, so much integrity on monies that could have been diverted. And so, whereas once upon a time I thought I wasn't going to even get my capital back, I got my capital back with a little return.
Wow.
And so I took a chance on this person far away. And so this is my real life example to your question. Wow. And so when it's all said and done, I'm going to take another chance because I now am a better farmer administrator.
Okay.
I know how to manage expense requests and cash flow distributions better. I know more about the planting season. I know more about the timing of getting your products to the market. He's better at managing investor relations where he never knew what an investor was before. So we're both learning together. So he was doing it. He was in the dirt. I joined him with very little value to add other than capital. Now the second time around, he knows how to manage the process better from his side, and I think I know how to manage the process better from my side. So it's real life contribution to your question.
I get it. All right. Thank you.
Should we let him off of the hook on the principles question, or should we?
Give me another principle. I can't come up with my own principles.
Okay.
On a regular day, on your routine, let us understand your mindset. Because it looks like almost everything that you have an ability to just chance on, you recognize there's an opportunity in there. Let us understand your mindset and how one can even learn from your mindset and how you think.
On a regular? Well, I believe that if you give someone something of value at a fair price, you can establish a relationship where all parties win. And those kinds of relationships that can be repeated and then scaled can turn into a business. And so I think that you should wake up and ask yourself, how can you do something useful and efficient and desired for someone? It doesn't have to be anything fancy. A lot of times people get caught up into thinking that the thing has to be rocket science, an app or technology. But it doesn't have to be. It can be something very simple. But you have to be in the mindset to want to deliver value to someone. And try to figure out what someone decides is valuable. So that's what I do. That's how I came up even with the Monarch Village. Like looking around and seeing, like we talked about, people saying, someone should, and what if for this, and people are having these discussions all the time. And let me just give you another example that speaks to another business idea someone should in delivering value. Have any of you guys ever used a freelancer portal?
Yeah.
Which one do you use?
I use Upwork consistently. I've used Fiverr. I've used Freelancer.
Take Fiverr. You go on Fiverr. How come there are no African countries on Fiverr?
Well, I don't know about Fiverr, but I can speak more to Upwork.
Okay.
There's a lot of Africans on Upwork.
Zero on Fiverr, by the way.
Really? Zero on Fiverr?
Yes.
On Upwork, I don't see many Ghanaians.
Okay.
But I do see a decent amount of Kenyans. I see a decent amount of Nigerians. A handful of people from Botswana.
Now, this is interesting because Ghana is in the top 10 of available app developers in Africa. And so
why are they not on these platforms?
How come they're on Upwork if they're in the top 10 available qualified app developers?
This is one of the business ideas that I first thought of when I came here, because I'm coming from the tech world, and if you're in the tech world, you've got email inboxes flooded with job opportunities, and I came here and seeing the level of unemployment, and I was like, man, there's a ton of jobs that if I could link people with, could be a great opportunity to help people raise their standard of living. And also in terms of, helping startups scale, because I like using Upwork because I can get undervalued talent, right? Like, to me, it's an investment. And I have long-term relationships with people that I've gotten. Our structural engineer at Complete Housing was somebody we met on Upwork. And we have a long-term relationship where he's developed maybe 4 structural engineering drawings for us, and on point, like no slack job. Like when we saw his portfolio, we were like, I mean, he's done things for a lot of American companies and stuff, but I think that sometimes here what I've noticed, and you can correct me or you can share your side of it. The way I see it is a lot of Ghanaians don't see it as possible until they see another Ghanaian do it.
Sure.
They think that it doesn't exist until they've seen another Ghanaian that's like, hey, this guy's making money off it. Once they see that guy,
It's like they're
coming.
Yeah,
They're going to come.
It's going to be like a new thing. That's how we work. That's how we work.
Because I want to give you an example.
We talked about it in the third episode.
I'm working on a development project.
Yeah.
I need some early stage architectural renderings.
Mm-hmm.
I know that there are Ghanaians who've gone to architect school, ain't working. How come I can't find these people easily?
It's not easy. There is no platform, especially locally. That's another idea. I had this idea of an app called, what was I going to call it? A Jumapa, which means good job. Do it like doing a good job.
And what language is that?
That's tree.
That's tree?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It almost sounded French.
A Jumapa.
No, it's true. That's a whole nother.
That's a rabbit hole, right?
That's a rabbit hole.
Okay.
A lot of languages actually.
Okay.
But yeah, the idea is very similar to an app in America called Thumbtack. I don't know if you ever heard of Thumbtack. There's a couple apps here in Ghana. Sorry, no, the one I was gonna make was called Adea. And the one that's actually been started here in Ghana, there was one called Jumapa, and then there's one called Job something. They haven't gotten a lot of traction. I think that when I was analyzing their apps, there's things they could improve. UI, user experience, making sure that people make good bios. Marketing, the marketing isn't there because no one's heard of it. I think incentives. Sometimes you might have an idea, but you might not know what to do to bring it into a reality. Sometimes you might need to hook up. And I think that that's where I see the real partnerships forming between someone like yourself and someone from Ghana. Like somebody from Ghana knows Ghana quite well and knows what's missing.
Exactly.
And then maybe you have that experience of, okay, here's how we can grow this seed into a tree, right? Because business really is a wide range of skills. It's the hardest thing you'll probably ever do is be an entrepreneur. It's like, you've got to know marketing, you've got to know accounting, you have to know management.
At least until you can pay someone to do these things.
Until you,
at least.
And that means that you've done it pretty well.
That's true.
Right. So a lot of people here might not have that experience. Like one thing one thing that we are working on is this investment advisory firm that helps African startups raise capital, but not just helps them raise capital, but helps them become ready to be attractive to capital. And that involves various aspects of advisory. And I think if you come in and talk to somebody like a Jumapa, because they've started something, they've got it. You can download the app. It's there. Is it where it needs to be attractive? Not yet. But maybe, just maybe, with the right advice, they could get there.
That's the beauty of the collaborations, you know, and we need, as Ghanaians, we need to be very fortunate, especially having, having people like yourself coming into the country so that we can really, really learn.
Yeah.
So, I mean, hey, today at Free Consultation, it's really been about, Mr. Bryant has just given a whole lots of ideas. Like freely.
Yeah.
And we want to really want to thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you so much. I don't know if you have any last thing you want to say before we actually
also where can people find your content?
Exactly.
Connect with you on social.
What again wasn't my idea. A lot of my best ideas come from my wife, who's super creative. But I'll take a strand of an idea and I'll drag it into reality. So it was her idea to come up with our YouTube channel.
Oh.
Off the Wheel.
Okay.
Which documents our transition from Brooklyn to Ghana. and also encourages people who are thinking about it to come. Don't learn, don't make the mistakes we make. Learn from some of the better things we've done. Come, we need you here. We want you here. Ghana wants you. For all of the challenges, the rewards are so much better. And so off the wheel in America is the hamster wheel that we're running on in America.
Okay.
To enjoy all of the things that outsiders looking in think that are so wonderful.
Okay.
We're on this wheel running desperately for our lives. We can't get off the wheel. We wouldn't know what to do if the wheel stopped moving. But it's super predatory, hyper consumeristic, trying to fill all of the shortcomings in your life with material goods because the actual life there is empty. That's the wheel. And you run on this wheel until you make it to retirement or die. And so we say, get off the wheel, come to Ghana or other African countries and bring your talents, bring your money, bring your talents, bring your enthusiasm. And so that YouTube channel funnels interest into the other projects that we have. So, I would say to the American viewers or the diasporans, I've said this to you guys before, but I'll say it again to the audience. Especially Americans will get this. Ghana is like the South Bronx 1980s. In the 1980s, the South Bronx was a desolate Mad Max looking place that no one wanted to live. 3-legged dogs running around, barrels of garbage being burned, dilapidated homes. You couldn't even auction them off for $1.
Interesting.
Now, the South Bronx has private equity money building 20, 30, 40-story buildings. Places I used to be afraid to go. White people are running with their dogs and their baby strollers. So Ghana is like that. It's underdeveloped. It's raw. It's scary to a degree. Until you get here, that it's not scary.
Yeah, it's not too scary.
The Lebanese aren't scared. The Indians aren't scared.
Sure.
The Chinese aren't scared. The white people ain't scared.
True.
Black people are scared. But I would say to the black people, come here. We need all hands on deck. And to the Ghanaians watching, I would say, don't be afraid to share with your work, with what you're working on or what you're thinking about with the foreigner. Because a lot of times I'll walk up to a Ghanaian and I'll say to them, they're working hard, serving, digging. I'll say, if you could be anything you want it to be or work anywhere you want it to work tomorrow, what would it be? And the answers that you get are incredible. I like to be a journalist. I like to be a stockbroker. These are answers that I've gotten. I like to own a blah, blah, blah. And that creates the opportunity to say, oh, it's interesting. I know an American who was looking for something like that. Or I have a friend who runs a nursing company to bring Ghanaian nurses to America. Or my best friend from grade school is a journalist who covers presidential wives, the first ladies. I got a friend who rides on the presidential jets and covers the first lady. And so what I've learned from Monarch Village and my other projects is what I will say to the Ghanaian watchers. Talk about your thing. Opportunities don't show up if no one knows what you're working on. The second you start talking about things, you're going to start attracting people on that same frequency. So I would say, don't be afraid to share your ideas with people.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much on this, because Ghanaians are very skeptical when it comes to sharing ideas. we are very skeptical. We always feel like somebody's about to steal your idea. You know, we always want to be very secretive. But to hear this, I would say, do not be scared. Do not be scared, because mind you, these ideas are not just for you. It's meant to better the economy. Kujo?
Thank you again for coming. I hope everyone gained as much value as I did. And hey, that's what we're here to do. As Mr. Bryant said, is give a little bit of value every time we come here. So, subscribe, comment. If there's anything you want us to go more in depth into, let us know in the comment section. And thanks for watching. Until next time.
Peace.